Kenna's journey to aid spirits, alongside the awfully cute little rock creatures, had a pretty good reception back in 2021 as a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. The game's received a massive anniversary update last year and finally is coming to Xbox consoles as well. Let's figure out what Xbox players have been missing out on with Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, and how the game fares on a technical level on Xbox Series X, where we tested the game. Let's get the obvious out of the way. This game looks as gorgeous as it did on PlayStation 5 with no compromises anywhere. The colourful yet incredibly detailed locales, the lush forests, the gorgeous particle effects and shadows. Yep, that's the Kenna we remember from the PS5 days, albeit at a time we only briefly tested the game, whereas now we've played it through in its entirety. There's still two different settings: quality, focusing on a 4K resolution with the highest level of assets and shadows, but at 30 FPS, with a more compromised performance mode that sticks to 60 FPS instead. While the quality of shadows is indeed higher in the former mode and the image looks a bit sharper, it's not a huge difference overall, and we vastly preferred playing the game in 60 frames per second instead, as Kenna's Pixar-esque graphics still stood out very well. The game does a good job of constantly hiding the HUD when outside of action, allowing us to marvel at said graphics more and perhaps snap a nice little picture, even outside of the powerful photo mode. Speaking of updates, Kenna Bridge of Spirits' journey didn't end on its release date, and the game has received several patches, most importantly an anniversary update last year, bringing an extremely well-made photo mode into the mix, as well as a new challenge mode with various combat and platforming activities that can be used to unlock new skins for the main character, and a new Game Plus mode that allows players to restart the entire story, but with all of the unlocks in place, and so on. The Xbox version already contains all of this goodness from day one, bringing us what was already the definitive version of Kenna's adventure. But is it an adventure worth jumping into? The most concise answer to that question would be yes. We jump into the shoes of Kenna, a young girl set out to restore order in a village and its surroundings, which have been afflicted by a mysterious wave of energy coming from a nearby mountain that's devastated that village. Now, spirits roam the area, unable to move on from their earthly past, needing a spirit guide to move on. That role fell on Kenna, who will encounter multiple such spirits, who will only be able to move on once certain objectives have been met. That's the basic premise for this third-person adventure, which is set in a semi-open world structure that keeps opening up as the player continues, along with quick travel and shortcuts that allow us to go back to previously seen before areas with ease. The story isn't anything special, though there's a handful of emotional moments. The in-game map isn't too detailed, and there's no mini-map, so sometimes navigation can be a bit tricky, but we've never found ourselves lost for long. There's also plenty of invisible walls and some areas where the game glitched out due to faulty hitboxes, but given the game has generous checkpoints and saves, this wasn't a huge issue. Early in the journey we encounter the main travelling pals of our adventure, little black blobby creatures called Rot, which are like minions but if they were cute and not obnoxious as all hell. These little creatures not only follow us around wherever we go, cutely populating rocks, tables or anything we encounter, they're also part of the gameplay in more ways than one. Kenna can sit down at any given time, play with them, cuddle them and so on, but importantly they can be used in fights and puzzles. For example, they can be sent to distract an enemy mid-fight, assuming our rot meter is filled of course, or be used to get rid of corruption of certain places and plants, or move objects, usually to open up paths or to solve puzzles. In short, rots aren't just very cute, they also give Kenna's adventure a unique bit of personality via various gameplay ideas. The game's marvellous visuals and cuteness of the rots certainly does a lot of heavy lifting in Kenna Bridge of Spirits because the gameplay itself plays it fairly safe. Kenna has a staff which can be used for an increasing variety of things as the game progresses, like evoking a barrier that can parry attacks or shoot magical arrows from a distance and even spawn some explosive blobs. The combat does get increasingly varied with the cooldowns for the various abilities dictating the pace, but in truth it all feels like a very safe approach. It's light and heavy melee attacks, dodges, parries, etc. Enemies can have shields, they can fly, they can have shiny weak points and so on. If you've played a third-person action-adventure game in the last decade or so, chances are you already know how Kenna's adventure plays. Hitboxes seem a little hit and miss, to be fair, making parries and dodges feel a bit off at times, which renders some of the harder combat challenges slightly frustrating. And this feeling of playing it safe very much applies to the game's world structure. It's an open worldish approach where the areas open up as the player progresses. This is achieved via story events, puzzle solving and Metroidvania-esque paths that become unblocked via the unlock of new moves. It all boils down to a very similar forest biome with the occasional cave structure or mountain to spice things up. Various puzzles and repeated combat encounters do pad out certain areas of it, such as a series of 4 puzzle shrines near the end of the first main plot point. A lot of paths open up at the end of certain combat encounters, usually the ones with bosses or mini-bosses, with a lot of optional paths hiding little puzzles, collectible like hats for our rots, or entirely new rots to unlock and more. There's even a hub of sorts, the village, where players get to solve the mysteries of the inhabitants' spirits, and where we can always go back to for a breather, or to play the various combat and platforming challenges the game has to offer. Player agency comes in various forms in Kena Bridge of Spirits. There's a skill tree that allows the customization of all the various skills. Everything can be unlocked eventually, but naturally the order the player chooses ends up dictating the optimal playstyle throughout the playthrough. The staff itself can be customised with various charms, usually having both pros and cons. For example, a larger damage output but lower health, and increased efficiency of healing plants and so forth. Lastly, Kena finds various hat shops across the map where she can buy various unlocked little hats for the cute little rots. Mushroom heads, cat masks, cowboy hats and more. The already cute little creatures can become even more charming. The game's story only takes about 10 hours to complete, but it can easily take at least twice as much, if not more, to clean up all of the collectibles, find all of the rots, and complete all of the challenges. There's even a new game plus mode, 5 different difficulties, and several accessibility options, allowing every kind of player to have a pretty good time with Kena's gorgeous little adventure. Special mention to the game's excellent photo mode, absolutely packed with all kinds of options, filters and features, including custom lights, being able to move time forward to find a better moment for the shot, and so on. Also, a magnificent and epic soundtrack throughout, with very memorable and impactful symphonic sounds, whereas the voice acting is a lot less efficient, with many voices sounding like they're reading off of a script without the best of emotions. Playing through Kena Bridge of Spirits was a great time. A cool concept, a gorgeous art style, the cute little rots, a lovely soundtrack, and just the right length make this adventure flow nicely, with the end credits rolling before the fairly safe gameplay loop starts becoming too stale. The game is just a blast to look and listen to, which pardons some of the less impressive combat encounters and the play-it-safe game design. It's not a title that reinvents anything, but it sets out to do specific things, all of which it does pretty well. Fans of third-person action-adventure games should definitely consider playing Kena Bridge of Spirits, with accessibility options and a story mode difficulty allowing even newcomers to video games to enjoy this colourful, cartoonesque journey. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and why not ring that notification bell so that we can let you know when we're dropping some fresh content. And we'll see you next time.